Callum, I think we've talked a lot on here before about our history with your kind of traditional point-and-click adventure game. I think it's a thing that we kind of know a lot about and kind of grew up on.
We played a lot of Monkey Island growing up. That
Exactly.
Was
So this is Norco, and it kind of takes some of that original kind of point-and-clickiness that we're used to from that era. And it's obviously inspired by games of that era, even visually, I think. It kind of ties it into some of the more modern trappings of games like Disco Elysium and some more modern kind of visual novel style stuff. And it's created this really cool... it's this really cool story, really cool narrative-driven point-and-click adventure game. With more freedom than I thought it had when I first started playing, actually. Having listened to other people talk about it. There's chunks of this I've never seen that I heard people go, oh, do you remember that bit where like it's way more open than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So this is Norco. This is the first game from Geography of Robots, I think is the name of the developer.
That's a good name.
Really good name. I think it's like a 2-man team with additional people, and it came out this year, and it's very cool. A lot of the, again, trying not to get into stuff that is direct spoilers that is worth seeing yourself, but a lot of the dialogue kind of takes this kind of form where it's like it's talking about you as a character, and you're kind of directly talking to the game here to kind of set yourself up a little bit.
Right.
So like here it's like, hey, you spent your adolescence sleepwalking through devastating rituals, though Blake pleaded, you decided to leave. So like he'd get over it, he never did. And it's a lot about you having this discussion with the game as well as discussion with different characters. There's a moment I talked about in the podcast specifically where the game goes between like talking about the past, talking about the present, and then jumps into the future and just has a conversation with you as the player about here's what's going to happen here in 4 or 5 years time, and that kind of stuff is what makes this game really special, right? So basically the setup here is you play as this character Kat, who has packed up and left your home of Norco, Louisiana, leaving behind your mother and a brother.
Is Norco a real place?
No, it's inspired by a lot of areas of Louisiana where a lot of the stuff.
That's what I was wondering. Is it like, is somebody talking specifically about somewhere, or are they just talking about Louisiana in general?
I did a very cursory glance at some places and I couldn't find the direct. This is Norco, but there's definitely a couple of places that's directly inspired by. Like I was listening to one of the developers talk about it. It was like, yeah, this is the town I grew up in. It's not called Norco, but it's very similar.
Sure.
So you've left, and the game starts with your story of what happens after you left, and it throws in like it does this really cool thing where it throws in a lot of stuff that's like, whoa, could we go back and talk about the fact that there was a war that set Albuquerque on fire? Like, wait, like a war? Like actually a war, and what you did through it and all of this kind of stuff. It really does, it wants you to really engage and really kind of pick up on this stuff and just kind of be taken by this world that they're building.
Sure, yeah.
So you're away, you leave home, 5 years later you get a phone call that basically says your mother's passed away, and you decide to come back home to kind of deal with the fallout of that. You wake up to a delirious dream to find yourself in your childhood bedroom, and then you start to see some of the point and click stuff. So it's like a first person point and click. So like, hey, if I hold down space, here's a bunch of interaction icons, so you can look at the books that were there. Crisis LARPing, just some really great stuff.
Crisis LARPing,
yeah. And it's obviously set kind of pseudo near future, and kind of extrapolating from the current, all that kind of stuff. But it's very much written at, like, from the perspective of 2022, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff that they mentioned in here that is like very relevant, and like they reference a lot of stuff from now. It's very up to date. Where a lot of the stuff they talk about here. So the other useful thing, so you've got like an overworld, which is like, hey, here's all of Norco that will obviously open up as you explore more of it. But you also have this, and this is your like kind of local map. They don't explain this in the game very well, and it kind of stumped me for a little bit until I looked it up. But like, this is like the area you're currently in. So if I go to the living room from here, for instance, like it will open up more rooms, and then you go out to the front yard. From here,
I see.
They don't tell you that explicitly, and I was like, how do I get out this bedroom? And turns out that's how you get
Is that your vision cone? Like, why is it weirdly lit?
It's just because of it's not no, it's just that's the way it is. I don't quite know why it looks like that.
Bizarre.
It's just sure. I think it's the kind of glass thing that they're going for on there. Oh no, sorry, no, it totally is.
It changes position. Yeah,
that is your perspective. Yeah. So you're looking from the living room, the backyard's here, the attic's here. Yeah, okay. So the other cool thing in here that is kind of where you start to get into some of the more modern adventure stuff is the mind map. So the mind map it serves a narrative purpose and also just serves like a gameplay purpose as well, where everything you find, everything you come across, every character you come across, every concept you come across ends up on this mind map. And a lot of it you kind of start to fill out yourself by having conversations with the game. So like, this is you, and you were traveling.
Oh, this is very Disco Elysium.
Yeah, you were traveling through the Midwest, and it talks about your time as you were traveling through the Midwest, what it looked like, all of that kind of stuff. And then you rode in the back of a van wedged between amplifiers. Like, just a lot of really good, subtle writing in here. And it really it's a really good way to fill out some story without just doing like lore dumps at random positions.
Yeah.
So then you get like, hey, it talks about this familiar smile on the face of an old man in a Central Valley ditch. That dude comes back up, just without getting into spoilers. But then he becomes a part of the mind map. So I can come back. But then he becomes part of the mind map. You start going, okay, who is Ditch Man? And you start to fill out this stuff. It's really useful, like I say, narratively. It lets you kind of see more about the narrative, but also it's really useful to come back and go, wait, who was that character again? How are they related to X, Y, and Z? And it's just all there, which is really handy. I'll also say the art here is superb. Like, they do stuff with pixel art that I haven't seen them do before. It's not true.
I was going to say the art and the music is really good. So
the music on its own is stellar. The music, there's like two soundtracks. There's like the in-game soundtrack, and then there's a sludge metal accompanying soundtrack that they commissioned from a band from Louisiana.
I see. Okay.
And it's really good, and it does come into the game bits and pieces. But if I go into the backyard, for instance, this is Million. Million is synthetic. She doesn't quite describe herself as to whether she's synthetic or like completely robotic. They describe her as a robot, but it's kind of unclear as exactly what she is. But just like, look at this character design. Like, it's just so cool. So we'll go to one more area and then we'll kind of wrap up, because I just kind of want to show you the tone and the what this game actually is. But a lot of it is very much down to like just going. So like, hey, we need a fuse to get the bike going so we can go exploring, and there's a gas station up there. Cool. So we'll go do that. So again, they talk about like, Catherine's your mother. Obviously Million's been living in the house for a while and was very close with Catherine. Blake, who's your brother, it seems like he's kind of like dealing with it in his own way about being like a complete troublemaker and just like hanging out at the bar and like with his shitty friends getting high in the car parks of like the local shop and all that kind of stuff. Like, so we need to get a fuse. So that's now opened up. If we go here, there should be. Oh, do I get it? I'll get it from here, don't I? If I go into the front yard and then to the streets, yeah, and just these little like. Oh god, there's so much stuff that I can't talk about. It's great. Dimes discount. So here's your gas station. I'm going to show this bit. Like, this is probably the point where you need to stop. Like, if you want to go in totally cold, but this is just like some flavor of what they're going for. So again, if you hold down spacebar, it shows you all the interactable stuff. This is a godsend. Like, every game should have this. I am not having arguments about difficulty now. Every game like this should just have a show me everything interactable button here for sure. So yeah, there's a film set happening, and I just love this conversation. So there's a film crew set along the river roads, floodlights. Two men stand pensively above a corpse. So let's go see what they're doing. A small energetic man jumps from his chair. This director is a piece of work. So hey, what are you filming? It's a detective drama called None of Your Goddamn Business. So is this like a murder scene? And you can be. They really do let you. They let you cast Kay as a bunch of different like attitudes and a bunch of different like directions she can take.
Much like the main character from Disco Elysium.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of parallels with this.
So you're from around here? Yeah, I'm from around here. We could use your cultural expertise. We're filming a Bayou cop drama, and all these knuckleheads are from LA. So here's your actor who's come over. This is just True Detective, right? I've never seen True Detective, but this is just True Detective,
I've
right?
never seen True Detective either, but I think so.
Cool. Like, just this argument between these two fucks from LA about, like, how he's a true artist and, like you have to really capture what before you scare off the yokel. It's just... So he said, oh yeah, can you help us out with the script and get some local flavour into it? It's like directly asking for help and then calling you a stupid redneck. Like, it's just... Oh, some of the characters in this game are so good.
Good writing.
Yeah, like, and this extends the whole way. Like, I talked about it a little bit in the podcast. So, what do you call a villain? A bad apple of life, asshole, a bad daddy, or just make shit up like a crawfish devil.
Like crawfish devil.
And he goes, "Oh wow, yeah, that's some spicy Louisiana shit right there." It's just, yeah, it's great. Like, you can really fuck with these people. It's excellent. But I talked about it in the podcast a little bit. I am very much down for, like, so obviously we've had a lot of great sense. Obviously a lot of comparisons with Disco Elysium. I think another one game that it gets compared to quite a lot is Kentucky Route Zero, because there's a lot of, or there's areas in the game where it does go very abstract's kind of selling it short, but it's like there's like dreamlike sequences or like stuff where you're not entirely sure what's real and what's not, and what's physically happening and what's metaphorically happening and all this kind of stuff. And it shares a lot of that with Kentucky Route Zero. I infinitely prefer this game to Kentucky Route Zero, and I've talked about the problems with it a lot, that I have with that game quite a lot. But even this is a game that, as I've listened to people talk about what happens in the story, like, it's obviously very deeply rooted in Southern literature in America. Like, the name Faulkner keeps coming up, that people keep saying, and I have no connection to any of that stuff. I'm not a literary person in that domain. But the thing that this has that I think Kentucky Route Zero lacked is this has a much more easily attachable to story that will take you through a lot of this stuff, whereas Kentucky Route Zero just seemed kind of very... It seemed like if you didn't have the references, you had no idea what the fuck was happening. Whereas this has a much more traditional story that you can follow and be like, cool, this is about Kay and her brother and her mother and what her mother was doing and all that. Like, you can follow that stuff, and if there's stuff there along there that you see that you recognize, great. But like, the main through line is enough to get through this game.
Yeah.
So this is the last bit I'm gonna show, just because, again, kind of slight mechanics. So hey, here's fucking Troy, and you could just... Yeah, I'm back because my mom died. So you really trolling me about my dead mom. So Troy, obviously a character from your past who is very much of this place, and knows everyone.
See the words and sentences that are like highlighted where it says "Rim of the Lake" there.
Does
that actually do anything?
The green ones are stuff that contributes to the mind map. So if I was to go back to the mind map, Rim of the Lake is now a thing.
It is a mechanical thing.
It's either contributed to something that's already there, or it's a new thing. So then this is the first thing where you're like, hey, Catherine was up to some stuff before she passed that everyone knew about, but nobody really wants to talk about. And that's your first in for, like, oh hey, there's something. Also, like,
something else is going on.
Your brother's selling pills. That's a good thing. So here, like, you need to get to this gas station. The gas station has fired him and is now fully automated, so he's pissed about it. But you really need this gas station, and this guy's standing in the road. So you can just fight him if you want. And then you end up with the fighting mechanic that this game has, where, hey, okay,
It has combat.
Kay's going to make an attack, and I'm going to attack him. And it's kind of Simon Says-y to get there. You have a heal. Every character has their own little minigame for attack, and their own mechanics for how this stuff works. There's not a huge amount of this, like, don't let this put you off if you're not into this stuff. Again, it's very narrative driven, it's very much about evoking stuff. It's fucking pass about.
Excellent.
Also, you got an achievement there, or I've already got the achievement, but there's an achievement there for breaking the strike. Or like crossing the picket line, and you're like, oh fuck, that's totally what I just did, huh? And then this kiosk is now just run by this bit of AI that is just that is now running this store instead of Troy.
Like you can ask the kiosk about Troy.
Yeah, you can see him in the background and stuff. It's great. So I kind of don't want to show too much more because a lot of this game is about seeing all this stuff. And like I said, there's more freedom in here than I thought there was the first time. I thought this was generally a very linear story, but there's more stuff in there than I expected. I thought there was the... Oh no, that's later. Never mind. I was going to look for the library, but the library's later. That's fine. But yeah, so that is... this is Norco. So this is out... It's on Steam. As far as I know, that's the only place it is right now. I don't think it's on consoles right now, but it's a very small dev team. But they've pulled something really cool off here. Like I say, the writing is stellar. The story is super interesting. It slightly goes off the rails at the very, very, very end to where I didn't like it, but I can definitely... That seems like more of a personal thing than like it being a non-fulfilling end to the game. I think I just didn't like it, but up till then, like, there's some stuff like... there's a whole section in a mall that is just incredible and like very kind of commentary on stuff that's happening right now, and it casts it in this really good way, which is like, it's funny, it's smart, it's empathetic, it covered all of that stuff, and just generally it's a really, really good one of these games. So it's definitely on Steam. It's 15 quid. It's maybe like somewhere between 4 and 6 hours depending on how thorough you want to be with it. Great soundtrack, like the visuals just get better even as this goes along, and it's well worth a look. So that's Norco.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Cal.
Thanks, you.